All right, my Renowned fam, welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Morris, founder and CEO of Renowned Leadership. And I am joined today by world-renowned leadership expert, Gerardo Segat, all the way from Switzerland. And Gerardo's kind of mean, man. He made me get up at 4:30 in the morning to record this because of the time difference. And I'm thoroughly joking. He's been very understanding with the time difference. I volunteered to get up early, but good morning, Gerardo. It is amazing to have you on the program. Thank you so much, brother.
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you for inviting me and for waking up so early.
like I said, I normally get up early anyway, but it's totally not a problem. So real quick, Gerardo, before we get diving into our discussion, go ahead and give the audience a little bit about who you are, your background, where you grew up, and what got you into being the leadership guru that you've become.
Well, I'm Italian Swiss and based in Switzerland, and I am one of those guys who has taken a direction that really didn't belong to me because of life events. I lost my dad when I was 6, and so lived with my older brother 2 years and 4 years younger sister and my mom in Italy. And then my mother also got sick. So me, my brother, my sister, when I was 13, I was, handling all the house matters, washing, cleaning, ironing, cooking, and all that stuff. And with my brother, we were even managing the family finances. So because my mom was sick, so was unable. And that is when I was 14 years old. And then when I was 15, my mom also died. So I lived with my brother since I was 15, just the two of us. Didn't have so much money, so we thought, okay, we're going to start organizing parties in clubs in Milan to earn some money to pay for our studies. And this is what I've done. So that allowed me to go to university in Italy. And, throughout those years, I built this idea to become a successful entrepreneur. The idea I had also, I didn't have education from my parents so much. And if you're looking at the television, you read the newspapers, schools, they all teach you to look outside. So for me, success meant, build a big company, lots of people, lots of money, lots of this, all outcomes, if you want, all looking outside, all signs, external signs of success. And so, I had dedication, I had some qualities, some skills that I've been given by my parents, and I used that to start my career. And I worked for about 20 years in the family office industry. So I moved to London, started working there, and then at the age of 29, I set up my business in a small service office, myself and a secretary. And that with time became 400 people operation, 10 offices around the world. So quite a big group. And in the year 2016, I felt I did what I had to do. So I exited my business and started, requalified as a coach and started my career as a leadership coach with the purpose of humanizing leaders and organization. In the last decade, I've been a member of an organization called YPO, Young President Organization, which is the world's largest community of CEO worldwide, 35,000 CEOs, members in 130 countries. That's briefly what I do. I love learning by creating. I'm a creator, In my current job, I created a corporate coaching program, a postgraduate training program that I'm teaching here at some Swiss universities, format of voting, decisional debate, format of interview, and the latest creation, my latest creation is a performing arts show called Out as Humans that I feature in corporates or leadership associations, organizations to humanize leaders and organizations.
Uh, Man, so first of all, sorry, about the passing of your parents, especially at such a young age. I find it interesting though, because a lot of times, uh, when you meet, by the world standard, ultra successful people, usually their life has some catalyst event, some, not necessarily dark, but some sort of like twist and turn that causes them to shift mindset and go completely the other direction. And usually that means we become entrepreneurs and we build something. um but one of the things you said that I absolutely loved is, you had to redefine what success was, because all you had was what you saw on TV. And I'm a huge advocate for that. I talk about that a lot. Of success is a big lie, because we're sold the mansions and we're sold the fancy cars and the private jets and the travel, but that not might not necessarily be what success means to you. And to truly be successful, you have to sit down with yourself and figure out what success means to you. Can you walk me through the process a little bit of just kind of identifying yourself and identifying what success meant to you?
Well, initially is what I told you. To me, it meant it was very much linked to entrepreneur because this is in my blood. My dad was an entrepreneur. Okay, so for me, I wanted to become a successful entrepreneur. And so when I looked at being an entrepreneur, to me, success meant, build up a successful company, lots of people, lots of money, lots of offices, lots of, all these different things, lots of external signs, then, I said in 2016, I exited my business. Now, to be honest, I felt, I said, okay, I've done this, but, okay, what's next? I asked myself, once I reached that, I was lucky enough to reach that external success. Okay. And, I say I was lucky enough because maybe lots of people are not able and continue to pursue external success until they reach, and maybe they never reach it. I was lucky enough to reach it. And once I was in that position, I said, okay, but, I was looking ahead and I saw nothing. So, what's next? And that somehow, this feeling I had, I was feeling I wanted something with a more human content, more human satisfaction, more human meaning. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew I had to end up what I was doing and move somewhere else. I think that pushed me to say towards a different direction. The direction is inner objectives, not outer objectives. So set myself inner goals and not outer, okay? And that's why, I went into the coaching direction. Yes, for me, but also for, other people. And this is what I do, mainly today, because it's not that you cannot live with outer objectives. I mean, there are many people and you can reach success, you can reach money, this, that, whatever, no? But at a certain point in time in your life, And worst case scenario, just before dying, you're gonna regret. You're gonna have resentments. You're gonna have regrets. You're not gonna, and finish up in a nice way, or live in a nice way.
Do you wish that you had discovered that success was more than just the external success as you describe it earlier in your life, or are you pretty content with the route you've taken?
Um, that's a good question, because the normal answer would be, oh no, I'm happy.
Mhm.
Okay. The reality is, I would be curious, now I'm thinking about your question and say, I kind of, not maybe wanting, but being curious to see if I was taking the right direction at the beginning, where I would be right now. No, I think what an important, maybe I didn't even feel, and I would not be in a position to say what I'm saying to you right now. Now, the issue is that the world pushes you to look outside. Okay. TV, newspaper, education, school, all these things. Parents, think about the school. The school, a kid grows up where the important matter is the mark of an exam.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's not, building up a certain skill or reaching a certain inner objective. No. So it is the system that pushes you outside. And, hopefully in the future, I think, now we're moving towards the inner is more important. Okay. There's much more messages going around. If I think about when I was a kid, no? And it will be even more, with AI, the more we detach from our humanity and the more the words goes toward that direction, the more it will be crucial and it will make a difference. Our specific, unique characteristic that we have, which is humanity.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I'm kind of the same way you are. Like, uh, I am my professional growth was mainly in the military, and I saw a lot of external success in the military, but I was fortunate in the fact that the military really pushes you and forces you to grow internally as well. Um, and so I kind of embraced that at an early age, even though I didn't realize it. And now, as I look back, I realize, you know, that like what you said, the world kind of forces us to go with this external route, and we miss that crucial inner growth. And so that's kind of why my message has always been like, focus on the internal and trying to encourage people to come back to the internal uh growth, the internal success. But I also agree with you 100%. You would not be where you are today had you not taken the path you had taken. And, had you, you know, said, forget the world and I'm going to focus on the internal growth, then you and I might not be sitting here talking today. So, I mean, it's a catch 22, I guess, but it's always interesting to know people's opinions of that. But I'm also a firm believer in not regretting, right? Like, live your life intentionally on purpose so that, like you said, at the end of the road, you don't look back and just you're filled with regret. And this journey has caused you to create uh I guess the best way to put it is just the way you do, and that's the concept of four inner treasures for leaders. Can you talk about what those four inner treasures for leaders are? Because they're different for each person, correct?
Yes, I mean the relevance, of each of them is different. But this whole thing started because I was looking at myself, okay, and I was looking around, and I noticed something, some kind of behaviors that we all have, especially as leaders. Wearing masks, attacking, judging, blaming, ignoring, postponing, destroying, all these things, we do it all the time, and macro level or micro level. So from a loud discussion with colleagues to, pushing a button to launch a missile, all these I was noticing are harmful defensive behaviors from fears that we have. So in an effort to get to the ultimate fears, I've done this with myself, but now, in the years, I do it with the clients. And every time I was noticing, I was continuously asking myself, okay, but why this behavior? Or why this fear? Because we might have fears, but those are not our ultimate fears. So anyway, continuously asking this, I got myself, but anyone else, to be honest, to these four main fears of four ultimate fears of a leader. And those four fears are meaningless, so having no meaning in what you do or who you are. Loneliness, so being lonely or having fear of ending up alone in the future. Dependency from something or somebody, and uncertainty. Okay, so I got to those four ultimate fears. Now, to get to the four treasures, I simply flip them. So inner meaning, inner love, inner freedom, and inner certainty. And, when I started this, I did it myself. But then, as I said, with experience with, clients and organizations. And by the way, this is not only for an individual. It is even applicable to an organization. It is the same thing. So those are the ultimate fears flipped. Those are the ultimate treasure. So now I live with completely different objectives, inner objectives. So inner meaning, inner love, inner freedom, inner certainty.
That's interesting. And
And the
like,
good thing, sorry to interrupt you, Stephen, the good
no, you're
thing,
good.
but that's an important, everybody has them. Everybody that's sitting there, okay, waiting to be looked after, noticed, pursued, reached, and enjoyed.
Yeah, I was literally about to say the same thing. Like as you were going through the fears, it's like, yeah, I fear that. Yeah. And like every single one resonates with me in a specific way. I also see what you're saying about, it means a little bit something different to each person because you said them out of order for me on the list of hierarchy of where they fall, I guess you could say. Um, Now that you understand these fears and you've replaced them with the treasures, how has that impacted your life, your leadership? um what is the noticeable difference now that you've embraced this concept?
Um, well, first of all, to have this feeling that you are not necessarily reaching, because it is actually continuous work, not continuous work, but it never ends, this road towards those inner objective, okay?
Yeah.
But, walking that road and actually here and there getting some, results or having this feeling of reaching something that gives you inner meaning, something that gives you inner, uh, just, you know, I think I would say that just makes you happy, just makes you, I just feel fulfilled, makes you happy and fulfilled, you know.
I couldn't say it better myself. Happy and fulfilled. That wraps it up, everybody. You got the keys. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So one of the big things you like to talk about is leading leaders. And it is a huge belief of mine that in order, if you want to be considered a successful leader, your main priority needs to be creating other leaders, right? That's and my definition of what leadership is. It's a person that mentors that leadership in other people. So leading leaders is a unique challenge. It's mainly a unique challenge because you've created these independent thinkers, you've created problem solvers, you've created action takers, and now all of a sudden you're trying to control that environment with a bunch of people that are really hard to control. I guess I don't know if I'm explaining that well. um what are what is when it comes to leading leaders, what is your go-to advice? We, like, you and I meet in an elevator and I recognize you. I'm like, hey man, like I'm struggling leading. I'm the C-level management. Like, I'm struggling leading my team leaders. What is your one piece of advice for me?
The way I see it is, to me, being a leader of a leader is a servancy place. Okay, it is, you are serving. Okay, and so you're giving whatever you want to give. In my experience, you're going to be much more effective if you create a space of deep authenticity and human connection. If you don't have that, whatever you're trying to give, it will be much more difficult that it is actually received and kept and implemented. So to do that, there's only one way. Well, there's not only one way. There is one, the most effective way I've seen is lead by example. So create a safe space so that, the person that you're trying to give something to doesn't feel the need to defend, doesn't feel the need to have a barrier. So simply lift the barrier or takes the barrier down because there is no need. So create that psychological safety, and the way to do that is lead by example. So be human, be authentic, be vulnerable, and the people around will be the same, because it is much more accessible than what we think, or actually what our mind tells us to think. Our protective mind tells us to think, it's very difficult. The reality is it's accessible, it's contagious. And, I've experienced board meetings, virtual events where people have shared most intimate fragility just after half an hour. The key is to create that space by leading by example.
I agree completely. And my company is built off of what I call the three C's: community, consistency, and clarity. And that is 100% the first step. Community. Like you said, you have to build that safe space where people can be, not only you can be vulnerable, but other people can be vulnerable. And I've talked about this on the show before. Um, a while back, I got absolutely destroyed on LinkedIn because I was talking about being vulnerable. And, a good leader is always vulnerable. Um,
Well,
and I understand, like, you don't, that there is overdoing it. I get that. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with a leader being like, yeah, I made a mistake. That was a bad decision. My bad. I own that. Or whatever the case is. But that vulnerability is a key piece because it humanizes you, right? Um, Also, when your team sees that you're not in a play or you're not above making mistakes, it's okay for them to make mistakes. The other key piece to that is that when uh when you are uh when you're vulnerable and you create that space of vulnerability for your team as well, that's how you build those key interpersonal relationships with your team. And without those interpersonal relationships, you're going to miss the marks on so many ways. One of the examples I use is I had an employee. She was a rock star. She was my go to, and uh, all of a sudden she just dropped off the face of the earth. I didn't understand why. Like her production just plummeted. And it turns out that finally heard through the rumor mill months later was that her husband of 30 years, she had found out that he had been unfaithful. They were going through a real nasty divorce and it was just destroying her. And I felt so bad because I should have been a person she felt safe talking to about that. Right. And once she talks to me about that as the leader, I can start creating an environment where she is still being successful at work, whatever, maybe that's more time off, or maybe that's, whatever the case is, each situation is different. But now I can start working and creating a space and helping facilitate her as she goes through this horrible time in her life. But because I didn't build that interpersonal relationship with her, she didn't feel safe talking to me about it, which made me miss that mark. And that's totally my fault, 100% my fault. I've thrown no shade at her. You know, that was my responsibility. And that's why I say vulnerability is one of the most important keys. Now, if you are in an environment where you aren't safe to be vulnerable like that, because if you are, you will get chewed up, then that's a pretty toxic environment. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to get that out. So go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to add a couple of things, from my experience. And I think, let's say, okay, leaders of leaders, you say, as I say, I see it as a servancy kind of mission. I see it by example. That's very important. And I think that number one, what I can offer is my experience. My experience, I've been a member for 10 years of this organization that is the world's largest community of CEO. Now in YPO, the number one reason for membership worldwide is what is called there's a specific format of meeting called forum. In this forum is like a group of 7, 8, 9, 10 CEO meet on a monthly basis to update each other about their personal and professional lives. And it is a format of meeting there's a specific format, but people share emotions. So vulnerability is what is the most valuable in the number one leadership organization in the world. Okay, so this is where the world is going. And once you reach that stage of openness, of deep authenticity, of human connection, then something unlocks individually. And some specific skill of, I believe, leader of leaders. Number one, radical positivity. So people who are able to see always the right side of anything, but really anything, even the worst thing. people who are able to see that bright side and therefore are able to change that, to move. This is a change-making skill of a
Let me
leader.
let me interrupt you. Hold that thought because I want you to finish it, but I do want to ask this question before you move on. Is radical positivity something you can teach yourself?
I'm not sure if it is something that you can teach. It's something that you can allow yourself to reach if you follow a certain path.
That's what I meant. Like teach
Yes,
yourself, like something you can build inside yourself. That's so if
yes,
you're so if someone's listening, like I am the most negative, pessimistic person in the world, that's a personality trait that can be changed, and
yes,
someone can be okay. I was just wondering what you thought about that. Go ahead.
yes. And that's the first characteristic, okay? The second characteristic I've seen is those people, deeply authentic, vulnerable, are people who create magical spaces. And when I say create magical spaces, I mean win-win scenarios, impossible to possible. They have this peculiar characteristic that in whatever situation, they see their intuition is so boosted that it becomes clarity. So the way I call it is radical clarity. So radical positivity, radical clarity. This radical clarity is because, somehow because of that, the fog goes away and they're able to spot that win-win solution. They're able to spot how to make impossible become possible. Okay. And that's a unique characteristic.
That is unique. Not many people possess that characteristic at all. But and again, that's something you can build inside yourself, right? Like but how I don't know. I think that one seems a little harder to me than going from you know being maybe a little negative to radically positive. Um, how does one go about cultivating that in their life and in
I
themselves?
think it doesn't take a second. Okay. Uh, I think once you switch from outer to inner and you walk that path, then at a certain point, it depends on on each individual, no? At a certain point, things will start changing. So you start seeing positive and then gradually then get to that place. Okay. But the way to do this is, you know, stop looking outside, stop looking other people, stop looking external success, stop having expectations, stop living outside and start living inside. Okay. And then inside out, no? Then from inside outside.
Right. And that's I think some of the best advice my dad ever gave me was no matter what you do in life, as long as you're always focusing on yourself and improving yourself, everything else follows that. So you basically are what you create. So what you create yourself to be, that is what your external success is going to look like, basically, is what he's saying. And that has been instrumental in my life. And that's absolutely true. I love that. Um, you talked earlier about authenticity. Why, and this is a obvious question to me, but I've learned that obvious questions to me aren't always obvious to other people. So, why is authenticity so important? Because we feel like, I guess, we feel like we need to present ourselves the way we think everyone accepts us. But 100% of the time, that lack of authenticity just pushes people away from us. What why is why is that? Why does authenticity become so hard for us as humans. Like, you know, does that make sense? Because
Yes,
it is hard.
I will, stupid example, okay? Do you, how do you say this in Do you suffer from tickling?
Tickling?
Yeah. Do you suffer?
I
Do you suffer
I
from tickling?
I am ticklish,
Okay,
yes.
I do, okay. But, here or here, that's a stupid example, okay? But just think about this, okay? So there is somebody who comes and does this, and your body reacts in a protective manner, to
Mhm.
protect from that. And you start laughing and you need to go away. Instead, if you take your finger and do it yourself, nothing. Okay, so the mind is built to protect yourself. Okay, and it will always send you protective thoughts. This is the purpose of your mind, is to protect. And so that's why there is an initial obstacle of being authentic, because your mind will always tell you, no, protect yourself, no, be scared, no this, no that, no this. Okay, this is the mind, how it is built. And I said the stupid example of the tickling, but just because maybe I noticed, maybe people don't notice, but that's it doesn't mean anything. If I do this, is nothing, and if somebody else does exactly the same thing, it doesn't make
I don't
sense.
I don't think that's a stupid example at all. I think that is an amazing example that I never would have thought of. I'm definitely going to steal that from you. Don't worry, I'll give you credit the first couple of times.
That's okay, but that's the reason, so it is difficult because this is the way we're built. And the way to unlock it is to understand and accept that it is difficult. I've had situations, events, or meetings where okay, I stimulate people to share fragilities, okay? And some people do it, okay? And I remember sometimes what happens is that somebody is not able to do it, okay? The fantastic thing of these situations is that people share that they're not able to do it. They don't simply not do it. So it's even better than people who are actually successful, that people care and say, look, I'm sorry, but I can't do it. That is the first step towards doing it. Okay. And even people who are not authentic, we need to understand the place where they come from, the tickling. Okay, it is difficult, and people, react in different way, and have different views about that. But if you accept, understand, and create that safe space, and be patient, and continue to give that message, people will start seeing around that other people are doing it, and nothing happens, and maybe they feel better, and it unlocks certain things, individual level, at group level, at team level. And then they start having the confidence, and then they do more, and then they do more, and then they do more.
I was literally as right as you were finishing that, the word confidence was about to come out of my mouth because you're absolutely right. The more authentic we are, the more confident we become. And we've all met those people. They just confidence pours out of their veins. And those are the most authentic people you'll ever meet. It is, in my opinion, it's impossible. It's impossible to be confident without being authentic first, right? We have to develop that vulnerability before we can develop that thick skin, which a confident person has. Also, what is truly inspiring for me about what you said is we have to embrace that it's not easy. And I think that's one of my unique skills that just comes natural to me is one, I'm just naturally a radically positive person. Like you're very rarely going to find a situation where I'm down about it. Like most of the time, it's like either I can't control it and I accept that I can't control it. It is what it is. Or it's like, well, this happened. these are the good things that we can make happen from this negative thing, right? Because I'm always wanting to build something positive out of something negative if I can. Which 99.9% of the time I'd say I can. The other thing is I'm just naturally that way. I just instantly look at a situation and I'm like, this is gonna suck. This is gonna be hard. That's okay. We got this. I got this. Um, I never really crossed my mind how important the ability to embrace the fact that something's not easy is to your psyche, I guess, to your mind. Um, why is so with through on authenticity, like once we're authentic, and I think this is the connecting piece is authenticity leads to true connection, right? If you and I aren't being authentic with each other, we're not truly going to connect with each other. And then, but if you and I are authentic, we're going to connect at a different level. And that connection is what breeds innovation. It's what breeds excellence or success. So, can you talk a little bit about authenticity leading to connection?
Yes. Well, first of all, to finish the answer to your previous question, I have a question for you and all your audience. What is more important than be who you are?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Just let's take even 30 seconds of complete silence. What is more important? Your question was why authenticity is important. So the reason is because authenticity means be who you are. What is more important in life, in the world? What is more important? Nothing. Okay. And now, if you get to that place of being who you are, what is the possibility that your relationship end up being successful? Because you're getting into any kind of relationship, friendship, husband, wife, partner, business partner, any relation, people you get out and have party, whatever different kinds of relationship you have in your life. If it starts here. If you are who you are, what is the probability that this end up successful? Or vice versa, what is the possibility that you screw them? This is the reality. And in my life, look, I was married and got divorced, and this is the point. If I look back at my unsuccessful relationship and the bad I've spread around, is because of that reason, because I wasn't too, but I am very compassionate. I told you the story. Okay. When I was 13 years old, my mom was coming to ask for money to do her expenses. How can you even think that this doesn't have a consequence on your inner balance? That's a crazy thing that when I see my daughter now, she's 15. And I said, at her age, I was doing all that thing. That's crazy. Okay. Anyway, that's my story. But the reality is, human connection is very simple. Take an individual without barriers, without an individual who is who she or he is, and then automatically, if an encounter happens, if a relationship is built, it will be genuine. So it spreads.
I think that's the biggest thing is it spreads, and everything you've talked about is contagious, right? Radical positivity. I don't know if I'm sure we've all been around that person whose positivity just like the second you get around that person, it instantly impacts you. And I think it's interesting because we started this conversation with the world, right? We have to pull away from necessarily what the world tells us and go to what our inner self tells us, right? So, and that was about success. But then I heard or read a study the other day about toxic positivity, right? That's a new thing. Uh, People that are just too positive in the workplace. And as I was reading this article, this study, I'm like, man, like this is where the world is going. Like now we're bashing on people that are just positive. Like, come on. Like that's one of the most admirable traits, in my opinion, of somebody is that they're positive. No matter the situation, they have a positive outlook. And but the world is trying to suffocate that, right? So I just wanted to share that because I think it's hilarious. Toxic positivity. I never thought I would use those two words back to back like that.
Well,
So
there is an element, sorry to interrupt, on that. Um, I'm not sure if you can define that positivity. I don't define that as positivity, but there is an angle to that, which is the pleasing angle. Okay.
right.
So the pleasing can be toxic.
But I
So
wouldn't define that as positivity though.
no. I'm just,
Yeah.
kind of cutting a little angle in this,
The only
toxic positive.
way I could see it is if someone was forcing positivity, right? That like they're naturally not a positive person, but they're forcing it out just because they're in the workplace. But one, I don't see how someone can sustain that for a long period of time. And two, you know, I've never really come across many people that do that. Um, Honestly, I can't think of a single person that I've ever known that wasn't authentically a positive person. But yeah, no, totally. I get it, I guess. I think I think
Sometimes
that
sometimes it's the manner, so the way sometimes that you kind of impose that positive thought, no? But
right,
the reality is when you have that positive thought, just drop it there in front of the eyes of anyone. Drop it. Don't push it too far, don't just, drop it there in front of his eyes or her eyes.
right, yeah,
And the person will do, because everybody likes positivity. So maybe, I haven't seen that, and you let them see that, and you drop the thought there and walk away. And then he'll do the job or she'll do the job.
right, yeah. I just wanted to share that because, like I said, I thought it was really interesting.
Mm.
I do. We're running out of time. This hour has flown by. But I do want to talk about one other thing, which is AI, and because man, the world is changing at a rate that is impossible for us to keep up. I mean, if you told, someone 100 years ago that, I mean, I just heard on the news the other day about a World War II veteran that just turned 101 years old. That imagine that woman, uh, you know, going through World War II, and you tell her that we are going to have computers that can think for us, right? Like that would have been insanity to her. Um, so now we're trying to lead our companies, we're trying to lead our teams in an environment where we have these AI tools. What is the biggest challenge you think leaders are going to face when it comes to AI?
Um, I think it is probably, which is an apparent challenge, but it is to define, find and define the role of AI in our lives. Now, this is a challenging because, it is something relatively new that is coming in. It is very disrupting, and therefore it will take some time to find the right place for AI so that it can be beneficial. From my point of view, anything that comes is evolving. It is evolving, taking us into a better state of being. Okay? And AI will be like that, but we will have to shape it. So shape AI so that it is beneficial. That's the macro challenge. The micro challenge, so personally, individually, I think it is the fact that the more AI, the more the really what makes us different, what makes us unique, what makes us changing, the kind of change making skill will be more and more inner, more and more humanity, more and more what makes us unique. Okay. And it's funny, a friend of mine recently asked ChatGPT. I find it absurd, but it's not absurd. He asked ChatGPT what would be the kind of human intelligences that would be for AI, least likely for AI to surpass humans. Okay. And the answer from ChatGPT was bodily kinesthetic intelligence, naturalistic intelligence, existential intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, interpersonal intelligence. Okay, so awareness of your body, awareness of nature, awareness of your values, your identity, existential, awareness of your strengths, weaknesses, so self-awareness, and awareness of each other, of the other person, awareness. Okay, and to me, the word awareness, the more, AI, the word awareness is the crucial skill, leadership skill of the future, and a part of it is self-awareness. And that's again inner. So the word goes that direction, it pushes us inner.
Right. Yeah. No, I love how you tie that inner theme into this whole conversation. Uh, that's amazing. Now, do you think denying AI is the wrong route to take? Like, an example, I have a client, he hates AI, and he wanted to tell his whole team not to use AI. And I was like, I wouldn't do that. The route I would go or set, you can use AI for this and not this. Because I feel like if you tell someone they can't do something, naturally they're going to want to do that thing. And I feel like just the denying of AI is a dangerous road to take. Um and so then I got to thinking about, like, why do people inherently want to deny AI, think negatively of AI? And I think ultimately it's because people are scared of AI. Um Rather than realizing that AI cannot surpass us, like you just said. It, yes, and I think the fear comes from, I can't think that fast, right? I go into Chat GPT, I say, give me a formula for this, a complex math equation, and it's going to do it for me. And I can't think like that. But at the same time, AI is never going to be able to match the computing power of our brain. Our brain is a unique superpower. Um, what do you think? Is it fear? Is it change? What is pushing people to not like AI?
Ultimately fear. I mean, it's obvious. Resistance is understandable. As I was saying before, uncertainty. One of the four, AI creates uncertainty. uncertainty, but not uncertainty what is going to be the role of AI. It is uncertainty, oh, my life, what's going to happen, my life, my job, this. So fear, the way to react is harmful defensive behavior, attack, blame, ignore, postpone, all these kind of things. So that's because of fear. The way to deal with that is to accept the fear. It is not to understand that this is the place that we're starting from, and then gradually, change. The world somehow, at some pain, at some cost, at some wars, at some disasters, at some whatever, at some price, AI will get to a place that will benefit the evolution of our life, of our world. Okay, we'll do mistakes. So this micro, exactly the same thing. We'll try and do this, and we'll try and do that. We'll try and do whatever. Okay, and maybe this works, and maybe this is not good, and but there's only one way ahead, and it is to get AI into our lives and find the right space for AI to actually help us to be beneficial, to be yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely. I don't think it's something to be scared of. Skynet's not coming for you, people. Chill.
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to give you an example. Now, some people are trying to build emotion, within the AI, emotional. But is it the right path? I don't know. My specific impression is no. Don't try to substitute you're ending up. It is a close-end road. It might be long, so spend a lot of time in trying to build emotions in AI, etc., etc. But is it how AI is useful long term? The world will go and will give AI a role that is beneficial. Okay, and if you're going in the wrong direction, it's going to shut that door and go and leave other doors open. Okay, emotions are human.
Well, I
Okay,
think the key is emotions are not logical, right? Because in your brain, emotions and logic can't live at the same time. So you're either thinking emotionally or you're thinking logically. Logic can be equated to values, to numbers. Emotions, like I said, they're not logical. So sometimes emotions are completely off the grid. They're just completely irrational. Why, why do you love the dog that's still the bit you? Right? That's not logical. The dog bit you. You shouldn't love that dog. But our emotion, our emotional connection to that dog begs to differ, right? Our emotion allows us to forgive that dog or whatever the case may be. Emotions can't be quantified. They can't be put to a number. Logic can. And that I think that's the defining line is if we try to give AI emotion, we're trying to give it a numerical value for something that doesn't have a numerical value.
I agree, and but this is what So AI, which has a certain nature, we try to do different. No,
Right.
humans, we have nature. Our nature is like that. And I'm going to give you an example. You go into meetings, and your objective is, okay, I want to end up that meeting with that contract signed. Outer logical objective. Okay, but instead we don't take care of the emotional internal part. Okay, so imagine if you go in that meeting and say, okay, hopefully I'm gonna finish that and the contract will be signed. But how about adding some emotional objective? Say, okay, I want to end up that meeting and feeling this way, feeling X, feeling Y, feeling Z. If you add those objectives, which are human, human, how do you say, human flavor, human essence, kind of, probably the way that you will prepare for that meeting and what you will do to get there will be different. And therefore,
100%.
the outcome of that meeting will be different.
100%. That was the best piece of sales advice I've ever gotten. When I became an entrepreneur, I hired a bunch of coaches. One was a sales coach, and he's like, look, dude, if you chase the sale, you'll never catch it. He's like, you can't go into a sell trying to sell. Like, you have to go into a sell and build an emotional connection with the person you're trying to sell. And you have to give them something that they don't have already. He's like, and then once they have that, then they'll buy from you. He's like, but if you go in and you just list all the benefits if they buy your product and all the, great things about you, all the great things about your company, and it's all logically based. He's like, people don't buy logically, they buy emotionally. So you have to connect on an emotional level, not a logical level. And that is the best piece of advice. And I have employed that since day one, and it has been very successful. Every time I go into a sales meeting, I'm not even thinking about the sale. I'm thinking about getting to know this person, building a rapport with this person, finding common ground with this person, and having a fun conversation with this person. And I've made sales where we only talked business for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And the entire hour was spent just talking about sports or our favorite hobbies or whatever the case may be. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I got this. Oh yeah, I'll buy that. Okay, cool. And then, and you're absolutely right. And when you leave those meetings, even if they don't buy from you, you feel good. And you've built a relationship and possibly a friend with someone else, or at least an acquaintance. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely great advice, Gerardo. Love that. So we're running out of time. Go ahead and tell people how they can find you and get a hold of you if they want to work with you or hear you talk or anything like that.
Very simple. Visit my website, gerardosegat.com.
All right, Gerardo Segat, and his link, of course, is going to be in the show notes down below, and I'll have his LinkedIn and all that stuff as well, so it'll be easy to find him. So go click on his links. Make sure you go give him tons and tons of love. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Tell him you heard him right here. And once you're done doing that, my links are going to be down below as well. Make sure you go give me tons and tons of love also, because I need it. Gerard has been around the block. He's good. Give me the love. No, I'm kidding. Go give Gerardo tons of love. He deserves it. So Gerardo, I know you've probably listened to the show, so you know the deal. My guests always get the final word of wisdom at the very end. What is your key piece of advice for our listeners on how to lead like champions?
Well, I can share a saying that it's important to me and that I always kind of repeat to myself. Every great change is simple.
Yes, every great change is simple. For me, that simple great change is just making the decision. I tell my wife gets so mad at me because every time we have a problem, it's like, it's just a decision, right? Yes, no, it's not more complicated than that. Just make a decision. So yeah, I love that. My wife's probably going to hate that, but that's okay because she doesn't listen to the show. Anyway, Gerardo, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming on here this morning. I appreciate it. Well, definitely going to have you back. It was a lot of fun talking to you, brother.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the Renowned Leadership Podcast. I am Stephen Morris. He is Gerardo Segat. I will see you all next week, same bad time, same bad channel. And in the meantime, everybody, don't forget, lead like a champion. Goodbye.